I'm Mandi Swain, and welcome to another edition of Origination Boost Podcast. My guest today is my friend, Lisa Desilet. We have known each other, I think, 10, 15 years?
Oh gosh, it is way more than that because I didn't even have my second daughter when you and I connected in the pageant world. And she's 16, about to turn 17.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. Yeah. And I followed your journey. You've been a nutrition expert. You've moved into like motivational speaking, and now your new gig, so to speak, is working with top performing agents and specifically with Keller Williams, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm the vice president over at Keller Williams Realty Boise.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about that and how that came to be, and because it's a big left turn from nutrition and all things that you know about that, and teaching, right? Because that's kind of like what your basis was of where you started, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when you and I originally met, I was an elementary teacher, which to look back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even recognize that girl, that young woman anymore.
Yeah.
So I've been on a little bit of a journey, which who hasn't, right? At this point. So I started in education, and I found that I had lost myself to motherhood and to my career as a teacher, just constantly pouring out to others. And at that time, when you get married young and you start having kids young, you don't really know who you are. And I'm going to answer your question here in a little bit of
a... take me full circle. This is perfect.
Okay. We're going to follow the yellow brick road.
Yeah.
So, when you're in your early 20s and you're trying to figure out the world, you're doing things from a lot of should. So I got the job that I should have as a young woman and as a young mom. And then when I found myself lost in that, it's like, man, I need to reconnect with myself. And so a way that I reconnected with myself was through fitness and nutrition. And in the education world, everything is like, what continuing ed are you doing? What new certifications are you getting? And so I thought, well, I might as well just get a master's degree in exercise science and sports nutrition. Why not? While I'm also, having more babies. And I remember, holding my son as I'm like one finger typing my graduate thesis on macronutrient manipulation. It was a wild time. That got me out of education and the public sector, and it got me into the private sector. So I was doing corporate wellness, community education, and meeting with a lot of business owners around the Treasure Valley that were trying to get increase their market share. So we were having conversations of like, what attracts employees, what attracts people to your company, lots of culture talks, which turns out I really, really enjoyed. And I was so good at it that another company asked me to come and do that for them, but it was a totally different model. Long story short, I built a very, very successful corporate career doing that sort of work. And I eventually got into leadership development and talent development, while also online, which is how you know me. Online, I was creating a brand around health and wellness and nutrition. So most of the people that followed me, and I shared openly about my health journey, most of the people had no idea that I also had this, 40-hour a week, 6-figure salary corporate job. They're like, oh, you're the nutrition girl. I was keeping those things very separate.
Yeah.
And that proved to be really good. I got a couple contracts with a couple international organizations, and I was traveling the country doing a lot of speaking, mostly for first responders of how to be healthy. And then COVID hit. And we all know what happened at that time. So helping first responders with their nutrition quickly pivoted to conversations around mental health and boundaries and resilience. And then my corporate job was actually in corporate healthcare. So you can see on both sides, like, okay, now I'm working with leaders that are absolutely burnt out. Their staff are burnt out. They're having hard conversations. And because the way that I was wired, like, oh, if I just show up more for everyone else around me, then it'll make things better. And I ended up burnt out, like completely burnt out. So fast forward to 2022, I decided to let go of that corporate contract doing firefighter nutrition. I kind of put a pause on anything, building an online community, doing, health coaching, those kinds of things. I'm like, I feel completely empty yet again. And so, I kind of looked around like, what is it that I really want? And I decided, okay, corporate healthcare is not the thing for me. This is a big ship. And it's really hard to make change. And working with an international organization is also a really big ship. Who do I love working with? And what I realized is when I was doing corporate wellness out in the community, I love small business owners. I love entrepreneurs. So early 2023, I left corporate. I left, the cush of a 6-figure salary and benefits and all of those things. And I remember sitting in the parking lot and I called my husband. It was 6 o'clock and I was like, I just did it. I quit my job. And I don't think I've been this scared since the day we brought our first daughter home, thinking, when are her real parents going to get here? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that I had. So the reason I got into the work that I'm doing now as the vice president of Keller Williams is because through all of those journeys, I had a really strong commitment to my own personal development. And what I've come to learn, and you can probably relate to this, your business will ever only grow to the extent that you do. And I had hit ceilings, just because of the design of corporate structure, that I wasn't able to reach my full potential because of those structures. And so I wanted to get out of that. And I wanted to work with people that had agility and a growth mindset. And so many entrepreneurs are like that. Fast forward a couple years, and I get connected with the local owner of Keller Williams Realty Boise, Stacy States. If you know her, you know how amazing she is. And she and I had coffee, and she was like, hey, I love what you're doing. I love the leadership content that you're sharing, because I had started sharing more on social media and really tried to make a pivot online in my brand and the things that I spoke about. She's like, I love your podcast. I love all the things that you're doing. Let's get you in our market center, and maybe you could teach a class or two. Maybe some of our agents would want to work with you as they're growing their business. And I was like, I feel like I've heard of Keller Williams before. Turns out I read the one thing, which is I've used with all of my leadership coaching clients, which is a Gary Keller book. And my husband and I, when we got into real estate investing, we had read The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Didn't know that was a Gary Keller thing either. And woven underneath all of those was this message, like you were talking about, this message of mindset.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. I thought this was a real estate company. And as I paid attention to really what was underneath that, is that the company is a training and development company that's designed to help people live their best lives. And it just so happens that they've chosen real estate as the vehicle to do that, because there's so many business benefits, there's so many tax benefits, there's so much wealth building opportunity. And I was like, I kind of like this company. So Stacy and I had a conversation, and basically it resulted in like, hey, we would love to have you here with our company. I would love to be with your company. How can we make this happen? And so she welcomed me in about 1.5 years ago into this role as the vice president of business development. And so I get to work with agents every single day talking about limiting beliefs, what their goals are, what's getting in the way of them actually reaching their full potential, where the bottleneck is. And there's not a single day that I don't leverage what I learned as a teacher, taking something complicated about business and making it simple. There's not a single day that I don't leverage what I know about resilience and taking care of yourself, because we have to hold boundaries. We can't pour from an empty cup. And then also all of those business strategy conversations that I had in my corporate role, those come into play every single day. So long story short, I love the work that I do. I love the people that I get to do it with. And turns out real estate agents are really cool, right? They get to be really agile. And at the end of the day, that's their own individual brand of them showing up for their community. And it says a lot when people really invest in wanting to be a true fiduciary, a true advisor for their clients, and not just make a buck off a transaction. And so those are the people that I get to work with.
Very, very cool. So I love that learning is power, and you typify that in everything you've done, and you've not stopped in that learning journey, I feel like, and you keep saying, okay, well, this isn't my best self, and you also talk about that something that I write about in my upcoming book is, you come into this world with a backpack of goodness, a backpack of yummy, everything God gave you, your brilliance and your charm and your charismatic self and your heart and your soul and all these things. And when the world and no harm, no foul, but the world takes out of that backpack, right? At times, right? And so what I heard you saying just about your job, you're like, I have this great job. People think I'm crazy for leaving it, but it had been depleted, right? All your goodness is pulled out of this backpack, and you need to find ways to feed that backpack, fill it back up with goodness so that you can go and continue to pour into others. And that is a trick, especially for moms like you that have, 3 kiddos, multiple, a very busy job. And then you're like, okay. And I really respect that you're like, I feel like I'm at my top at this career, and I've done everything I can. And to get that to that next level, I need to pivot and try something new. So just as a person, I applaud you, because for me, 30 years in the mortgage space, I'm not sure what I would do outside of mortgage. But I love that you're continuing to learn. One question I have is, you've watched this last couple of years with, rate and affordability and that type of thing. What are you telling real estate agents that is helping their mindset shift from scarcity to an idea of abundance, and that they can do in any market? I'm sure you talk a lot about that with them in the service you do there at Keller.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, we can't ignore data, right? Data is information, and we can write a story about what that data means. We can put a negative spin on that story, or we could put a positive spin on that story, but the data is irrefutable. And the data that we know is, there are about 4.2 million homes that were sold last year. And when you look at that number across the country, and I'm looking at the number of transactions that are being closed just in the Valley here, and also specifically in our brokerage. When you look at those irrefutable numbers, how is it not possible that you couldn't have some of that business? Because business is happening. People still need homes. People are still moving. Either they're upsizing, they're downsizing, they're trying to, move into the Valley, which that right now, specifically to the Treasure Valley, that is such a big opportunity that we have. I mean, we've got all of this infrastructure with Micron specifically that's coming. So business is to be had. That is not up for debate. The question is, what's getting in the way of you actually capturing some of that business? And, it's interesting, as I talk to people, I appreciate someone that has ridden multiple waves over 30 years. One of the waves that you rode was 2021 and early 2022, where business was easy. And there was a rise of people that got into real estate of like, I'm a $20 million producer, I'm a $40 million producer. And while they, established a really strong business early on, the methods and the ways that served them at that time are not the methods and the ways that will continue to help them be successful.
Agreed.
So coming from the background that I have in education, and specifically also in healthcare, you have to pay attention to what is proven for success, because success leaves clues everywhere. So we don't take the approach of like, let's just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. No. There's maybe your practice, but then there's best practice, because you put this in any other context, and a doctor who's about to, do a procedure on a child isn't like, hey, so I learned this thing on YouTube this week, and I think I'm going to try it. Like, no. What do we know to get the successful result that we're after? I kind of equate it to the same way that, I come back to the body, because this is what I know. Our body has 206 bones in it. And if those bones are not in order the way that they're supposed to be, and if they're not aligned or something is missing, we have some issues. But yet you look around at the 8 billion people that are on the planet and all the different expressions of the body, those bones are still there. So what are the bones of your business that you need to focus on? And then once you establish those bones, what are the meat? What's the movement? What's the expression of that you can begin to personalize? But you don't get creative until you have the bones in your business and have them in the right order.
I agree with that so much. I think that sometimes I watch new loan officers, not necessarily agents, because I live in that space just because they're friends of mine and I've watched them grow in their businesses. But on the origination side, I see like run before you walk. And I hear you saying, like, you've got to get your foundation solid for any,
Yes.
if we relate it back to homes, if the foundation of the home is not solid, then the walls are not going to be either. And so what I hear you saying is, like, learn all of that foundational stuff, get that squared away, and then you can start adding, the designs and the beauty of a business, but you do need the foundation of it, is what I hear you saying.
100%. And that's true. I have never been licensed as a real estate agent, and that actually works to my advantage because I'm never looking at it through the lens of an agent. I'm looking at it through the lens of a business strategist. So whether I was talking to a provider who wanted to expand his practice, I was talking to, an onion farmer that wanted to attract more people, or I'm talking to a real estate agent, business is business is business. And it doesn't change those foundational pieces, regardless of what lens you're looking at it through. So those foundational pieces, like, they can't be ignored. The challenge that I see a lot of people get stuck in is what they believe is a foundational piece is actually not. Meaning we're in this big shift from, most people don't even realize it, or maybe struggle to admit it, but we are in the digital era. We are no longer in an analog world where the speed of information and the way that you connect with people is not often the ways that it was 20, 40, 60 years ago. And so we have to train our brain that, like, what is the foundational piece here? It's relationship, it's building trust, it's being a key person of influence, it's being a connector. And then how does that get translated into the world that we're actually existing in?
Yeah, well, and you're so right that the beauty of this, I get asked a lot about AI and all of the things that are coming, right? And everybody's very excited for them, and me too. And I think as a business owner, Corey and I own Premier Mortgage Resources, and we're very excited for AI to be an asset in our business. But I really do not believe it's going to replace anybody's jobs. And I think that that's been a hot topic of conversation because, like you said, you were buying homes and you needed that guidance when you were buying those homes, right? And when I've bought a home or sold a home, the value of a real estate agent is that they provide that wealth of knowledge, of which I don't do every day. If you're a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, a firefighter, you're probably not buying houses so often that you just know everything you need to know. So, and I love that you were like, doctor's not going to go to YouTube and figure it out. Well, same thing goes for real estate. I think that most people should not probably go to YouTube to figure it out. I mean, yeah, learn and take YouTube University for what it is, but hire a professional and get the help you need, because you'll probably save money and make money if you're on the listing side. So I love that you're like, hey, go to the source, get your foundation set, and align yourself with people that are the same as you, right? And speak to your market, because my belief is that real estate agents could all have the same playbook. To your point, they could all have the same playbook. They could read all of Gary's books and been like, oh my gosh, I can do it just like him. But there's a variable for every single human. It's called personality. It's called likability. It's called like-mindedness, right? I mean, I just think that we could all have the same playbook and we play it very different because just of our humanity of the business. And so for me, I believe that the playbook is important. Following the playbook is important. Knowing the foundation is important. But you have to take some self-reflection and see what your own unique value is that you bring to that playbook. And so you see, I mean, I don't know how many agents you guys have in the Valley, but you probably see all different kinds of people succeeding. Somebody that's more reserved and quiet and strategic, and somebody that has a big personality and wins on likability, right? So you have this wide variety. What do you think is a common denominator for successful agents? Because I think that that's kind of the question a lot of people get is like, how can you identify a talented person that's going to rise up in real estate? What are you seeing? Because after a year and a half, you've seen all different personalities with a similar playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of factors, and I think the people that don't just rise to success quickly and then burn out, coming back to our original conversation, is they commit to the practice of building a solid business and they treat it like a business. The other thing that I think is really important to remind people is that, I talk about this a lot and I teach workshops on it. In fact, I've got one coming in April called Be Seen. And you can throw a rock and you can hit a real estate agent. You can throw a rock and you can hit a loan originator or a mortgage officer. That's not what people are coming to you for. There's this unique blend that is you. I call it your category of one, where you have your life experience in combination with the expertise that you've collected over that life experience. And then underneath that, you've got a big purpose. Why did you choose the work that you do? What are you passionate about? What are your beliefs around it? And what are your values that drive the way in which you show up? Because if you were in mortgage or even you were the receipt checker at Costco, those values would be with you everywhere. So the combo of those two things, you plus your big why, puts you in a unique position to serve the exact right person that connects with you, somebody who aligns with your values that maybe doesn't align with someone else's values, because our values are personal. And I say that because when you're able to first know yourself, this is where the personal development conversation really comes into play. When you're able to know yourself, this is who I am, this is my life, this is what I've learned, this is how I help people, this is what drives me, this is why I get up in the morning. You're perfectly poised to help what I call your ideal client. In the marketing world, this is very universal. And yet sometimes in other businesses, I'm like, how do you not know this? Because there's this belief of like, if you need to finance a home, I can help you. I can help anyone that needs to finance a home. And of course, you, with your 30 years of experience, you're so skilled. Of course you can. And yet there are certain people that you are perfect to help, that you help better than others. You understand what really keeps them up at night. What is the challenges that they're facing in relation to financing a home or thinking about their next investment? You know more than their demographics, you know their psychographics. So I talk to real estate agents, like when you're talking to a first-time home buyer, what's really driving them? What is it that they're really worried about? Maybe it's affordability, but maybe it's something deeper. Like go deep into the archives there. Well, I'm worried about, what I pay, because I get paid twice a month. And so my mortgage is one whole paycheck. And so how am I going to buy groceries and how am I going to put gas in my car and how am I going to take care of my family? Or is it, I just need to know that when my son gets off the bus at the end of the day and I'm not there to greet him because I also have to work, that he's in a safe neighborhood, that he's going to be able to make it home without any concern. What is it really that's driving them? Because if you're for everyone, you're for no one. And so I really advocate for all of our agents to get clear on their category of one, because when you're able to start communicating that, and this is where it translates in the digital era, when you're able to communicate that, people, even across the screen, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like they belong. And that is the currency on which all of these relationships are built.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that something you said there is so fundamentally true. Sometimes we get lost in we loan officers and real estate partners, they get lost in the white noise of even the media. Oh my gosh, rates are going up. Oh my gosh, affordability is a problem. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I think if you bring it back to why people buy homes, why do they buy homes? And you hit the nail on the head, right? If you can address the underlying concerns of what they're scared of and help them work through that in their own minds. And then second to that, remember why they came to you in the first place to buy a home. You're probably going to be a partner for theirs for a long, long time, because at the end of the day, people didn't come to me because rates were 2% or 7% or whatever. They didn't come because the home was 120 or the home was 500,000. They came because something in their life made them want to have a home. And so I think sometimes we miss that as professionals, that set everything aside on the financial piece of it, we have to stay focused on why people need homes. And homes build security, homes build stability, homes build a place families can go. I mean, I love your example of, hey, I want to know that when my son gets off the bus and he's a latchkey kid because I have to go to work, that he's going to be safe walking in this new neighborhood. And when you start to identify those things, that's really what matters, right? And then going, okay, we'll get into the payments and all of those things, but ultimately what I found is that most people need a home because of something in their life that's driving that, right?
Totally. It comes back to something that I learned in my early years as I was becoming a teacher. And it's that triangle. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So baseline, food, water, shelter, love. Okay, so I need a place to live. I need some shelter. Well, what does that shelter then provide? Most people in America are above that baseline. So is it community? Is it connection? Is it an opportunity? Where are they? And as you're talking about this, I think, I lean into an athlete's mindset a little bit because I love the competitive drive of that. That's really motivating for me. But at the end of the day, we're not ever winning business. What we're doing is connecting with people to understand what their motivation is, hear what they're worried about, and also hear what it is that they truly desire. And we're serving it up to them and positioning us as the guide that can help them achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been my pleasure to help, so many homeowners get into their homes throughout the years. And it's wild to think. I met with Logan from Housing Wire, and he was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he said that the loan to value in the United States of America is 44%. And I was thinking to myself, as a 30-year veteran in this industry, I wonder how many millions of dollars. I was able to be a part of that when those people bought their homes so many years ago, and how much wealth has been built because I've been blessed to be in this career and help people. And I think that's the best part, honestly, of whether it's real estate or mortgage, is that we get to help people have the American dream of homeownership. And I just think it's such a blessing. And a lot of people I have the opportunity to meet with, their home equity is the most equity they have, even over a 401k or savings or anything like that. And so I think it's a thrill to be in this business because we get to really help Americans build wealth and generational wealth in a lot of ways. So it's very, very cool. What else have you learned in your year and a half working with real estate partners that, the psyche of a realtor? And if you are a loan officer, let's say, and I want to go introduce myself to that agent, what do you think? What advice do you have for loan officers meeting real estate agents? Let's go there, because I think that's a good one, because you've now gotten to kind of know how real estate agents function over your coaching and being the VP over there at Keller. What do you know? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think for our friends that are in mortgage, you're kind of serving two different ideal clients, right? There's the clients in our community that you're helping, buy their American dream or upgrade their American dream. And then there's your partners that are potentially like referral partners that are feeding you business. And I come from a position of service. And I think most people running good businesses have that same belief that I want to give you something before I ever ask, right? You're putting deposits in the bank before you ever ask. So in the same way that you need to understand the psychographics of your clients that you're helping finance, you probably need to understand the psychographics of the agents that you love helping. What is it that's unique about them? Ask them questions, understand what their motivation is, who it is that they're trying to serve in our community. One agent comes to mind when I first met her. She'd been in the business as a real estate agent for, 17, 18 years. And she was of the belief at that time, well, I've been doing this for so long, so I probably need to pivot into luxury, right? In order to elevate me, I probably need to be focused on luxury. And that's a myth understanding that I think a lot of agents have, that that's like the next thing for their business. When I talked with her, what she really loved is because she had previous experience in hospice. She loved helping aging adults move out of the home that they'd raised their family in, where their grandkids had come, and downsize into something that was either more manageable or into assisted living. She had a magical skill for it, like such a unique position, right?
Right.
Turns out a lot of those homeowners have a lot of equity in their property, and those properties, maybe I think about my own parents, like, oh, they bought this home, in early 2000 for, I don't know, 130,000, and now it's worth, five, six, seven, $800,000,
absolutely.
right? So even though there's opportunity for her to serve luxury properties, she's serving a very different demographic. And I use that as an example because now, as she's thinking about affiliate partners that she wants to work with, what is it that you can do to help my clients? What can you offer? What sort of services can you offer to help this transition specifically for them? Because that's who I'm passionate about helping. It's not just, oh, I could get you the best deal. Or I could get you the lowest, whatever that is. But I would say having some great people that you have, I go like this because they're almost like in your pocket, where you're thinking about, oh, so this new product was released. Oh my gosh, I know so-and-so loves working with these kinds of people. I would love to sit down with them and help them understand how this actually serves their clients. Because at the end of the day, even though we try to be of service, we're also self-focused. So the question, anytime I'm sitting down with anyone talking about business, talking about anything, the question I always know that they have in their mind is, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? And so I want to come from service of like, yeah, let's figure out what's in this for you so that I can offer help. And then, the law of reciprocity that will be given back to me. So that would be my piece of advice for
I love that. I love that.
officers.
And that's, I totally agree with that. I think as I've grown in my career, initially, I was like, oh my gosh, any opportunity. And even to this day, any opportunity I welcome and I'm grateful for. But with that said, I've realized over time that I can only work with so many agents that are my partners, because I can only feed into their business and help their business grow, and do it justice if I'm very selective about who I work with, because on the lending side. And so I love that you say that, because I do ask that question, how can I help you with your business? Because I know that if I help an agent with their business and their business grows, that reciprocity of knowing that I fed into their business, gave of myself with it, I'm not asking anything in return. I want to be your partner. I want to be somebody that helps you build your business and is a reliable partner to you. But I love that, because that's how I feel, is I figure if I can help an agent build their business successfully and really feed into their business and help their business grow, that it will ultimately benefit, my direct team. And I think that sometimes, instead of asking for a deal or talking about interest rates or what have you, I agree with you that loan officers are well positioned to find programs and products that serve real estate partners, their customers, at a deeper level with what they need, whether that those folks are at a point where they're like, wow, I'm going all Social Security for that agent, and they're saying, I'm nervous that I'm going to be able to afford a new home, and they're like, well, if you do that and you go get a HECM, you wouldn't have to have a mortgage payment, right? You would be able to facilitate that. And so something like that would work for that agent really well, because it would serve her clients and it would get them so that they would have a home that they wouldn't have to worry about the mortgage payment anymore, right? I mean, I know for our parents, like, if my mom's 74 this year. Mom, if you're watching or listening, forgive me. But anyways, 74 this year. And I think, why does she need to she doesn't need a 30-year mortgage. I mean, the lifespan's, God willing, 105, let's say, in 30 years, maybe, but she doesn't really need it. I think that sometimes we get hooked, thought in our head that we have to give everybody the same thing. And to your point, really diving deeper and figuring out what people really need, and then finding what gives you joy in your business. Like that gal, she was like, I have joy when I work with these people. You're going to the burnout that you circle all the way back to, 20 minutes ago, that when you said burnout, I think that that's when it comes, is when you're trying to be all things to all people. And burnout really does. And I've seen that time and time again. And it goes back to the foundation conversation that you talked about. I find that burnout happens when there's no processes, procedures, systems in place that help you grow your business, because all you're doing is one man band, and everything's in your own head or on a notebook, and you have no processes, procedures, and systems to help you grow your business. So we circle all the way back from finding your joy in your business to the burnout you will have if you don't have your joy in your business, and then subsequently the need to put things in place at that foundational root of your business.
I love that. We talk about that a lot because, the basis of models for business, right? Business has to come in. You have to attract business in. That's all of our lead gen tactics. Then you have to convert and deliver on that business, right?
Yes.
Do the thing that you committed to. And then you can't forget that you have to have leverage, right? Because you can't be all things all the time. And we're faulty individuals. We're going to forget stuff. So having processes and systems in place, really, like, coming back to your question about like who do I see that's excelling in real estate, they create leverage. It comes usually in a few different forms. First, it's like, I need more time. Well, in order to get more time, you have to have money first, because you got to buy back your time, either through a system, a tool, or a person. And then once you have time, that leverage comes now from relationships. Who do I need to connect with? Who do I need to spend my time with? Who's going to challenge me to think different? And then once you have those relationships, then you can start thinking bigger about the purpose that you want to achieve. So yeah, leverage is a very important
investing in your business. You hit another nail on the head that I totally align with, is investing in your own business. I think sometimes you're looking for a company to invest in your business, or, a leader to invest in your business. Well, the key there is your business. So you must invest in your business, whether it's your mindset, whether it's coaching, whether it's systems, processes. I think some of the best and biggest producers, whether it's real estate or mortgage, probably make the least amount per transaction, but they make a great living because they leverage, to your point, systems and processes and procedures, and surrounding themselves with talented people that are not necessarily the same as them. They align with them, but they're not the same as them. And so, at least from my time in the business, that's what I've seen. The people that are great and do not have that burnout do put all of those things into it, and they invest in their own business to create new business, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing about this is, because both of these industries have been around a long time, you're not really needing to invent anything new. So coming back to what we were talking about, of like, who's created a business that I want to have, that's living a life like I want to have? How can I model my business after them? Maybe they're way up here and I'm still down here, but can I reach out to them and say, hey, how did you get from here to here? Can you help me understand that? So not trying to invent anything new, but following best practice, following a proven model, so that that you'll get to success faster and easier, as opposed to like trying to reinvent a wheel that's already really functioning nicely.
Yeah. Learn from others, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think the biggest struggle is in mindset right now for people in the real estate industry?
It's probably the same thing that's been plaguing humans, right? For as long as we can. And it just is, for me, what I see often is falling into scarcity versus abundance, putting limitations on our ability to think. I'll use my husband as an example, who's not in real estate. He's not in mortgage. He actually is a first responder. And there was a time that he was thinking about a promotion from captain to battalion chief. And in his mind, he's like, I'm not seeing anyone do this job the way that I want to do it. So I don't think it's possible. I don't know if I want to take on this role. I don't know if I want to go through this promotional process, because it's going to cost me my health. It's going to cost me my relationship with you, time with our kids, all of these different things. maybe it's worth it for the money, but I'm struggling to see that because it doesn't align with my values. And I let him be in his, in his thinking for a little bit. And, I'm his wife first before I'm his coach. But just bringing possibility into that conversation, I asked him, hey, do you believe it's possible to be the kind of leader that you want to be and also still maintain your health, maintain your relationships, keep the priorities and the quality of life that you have right now? Do you even believe that's possible? And just opening that up, he's like, well, yeah, of course I believe it's possible. I'm like, okay, you've set the trajectory. You believe it's possible. Now the work is, how do I become the man that makes that possible? And that's what it is. So whether you're in real estate, whether you're in mortgage, having a growth mindset, leaning into abundance of it is possible. My charge now is to figure out how, and then commit to the work of like, who do I need to be today? What do I need to do in order to have the things that I want? We get that mixed up often. We think I got to have these things first so that I can do the things I want and then I'll finally be happy or whatever. It's the reverse of that.
Well, and a couple things on that topic is that I believe that the mindset of saying I am going to do this, or I can be this person, I am, I will, I can't, those are words that if you can't believe it, I can't help you achieve it either. As your, EVP at PMR, or your mentor or your leader or your coach, if the person on the other end of the conversation tells me, Mandy, I can't be a top producer, I'm like, you are right, because you just told me it. And until your head tells me you can and you will, then I have a hard time helping you be, because we're already at that foundational pivot point that you're like, nope, can't do it. Well, I can't get you out the gate until you tell me you can and you will. And so I think that to your husband's point, you're like, honey, can you do this? Well, yes. Will you do this as this job? Yes. Well, okay, then we got a great basis for like that you can be this next position in your career and do it differently than somebody else did, right? And so I love that you said that, because I think a lot of times a lot of folks I meet with are like, man, I can't do what you did. Well, you can't do what I've done in my career because you just told me you can't. As soon as you start to say, I can do what you do, Mandy, and I'm willing to put the work and the effort in and the grit and the grind on the daily and show up for my clients and show up for my referral partners, then I'm going to say, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. You can absolutely have the same career I've had. Right. And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And I would even challenge that a little bit, that it's not that they need to do what you did because they're not you, right? Their values are different. Their life is different. Absolutely. But the better question, because I'm a big believer that the quality of your life, the quality of your business is a result of the quality of questions that you ask. So a better question is, how can you? You don't need to follow my path. I mean, you can use me as a model, but how can
it's going to be a model. You? Yes, I totally align with that. Like I can give you, and that's in my upcoming book, I really give my playbook of what I've done in my career. And I'm saying, here's everything, just do this. But each person has to do it their own way. And I love that you're like, hey, I talk about this in the book too, is that confidence will come after you do all the things. Like you told your husband, you're like, well, you being a great battalion chief is going to require things along the way that you're going to have to adjust and feel out and change and adapt to. But that confidence of being this person that you can see in your head doesn't come without a lot of work personally and totally. Daily to become that person, right? And so I usually confidence comes after many reps of failure.
Well, there's a lot of research around this, in the leadership space and also just in the change psychology space, that, people mislabel, oh, I'm going to do something new, I just need to be confident about it. No. It's not confidence that you're trying to muster, it's courage. You need to be courageous to do the thing that you committed to do. And then you have to continue to be committed to that thing. And the way that our brains work is we're looking for evidence constantly, right? This is our reticular activating system. This is all the things that we learn about mindset. So when I am courageous and I say, I'm going to go do this thing, even though it scares me, I'm going to do this thing. And then we stay committed. what we end up building is what's called our competence. This is just our skill set of, okay, I did it once, now I can do it again. Okay, now I've done it twice, I could do it a third time. Again. And then I can get better and better and better. And eventually we have a body of evidence that our brain can start to see the trail of like, oh, I've done this before. Oh, I can do this thing and I've been successful at it. And it's only then when we have that body of evidence that our brain is finally like, yeah, I'm confident.
I got this.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah.
I love that so much. And even me, 30 years later, I tell people, they're like, Mandi, you must walk in a room of people and just, it's no problem for you. Going to events is no problem for you. And what I say is, oh yeah, it's a problem for me. I still have to get geared up in my head. I have to kind of do my self-check. Do I feel good about myself? Am I dressed the way I want to be? Am I going into this room with my most confidence? And did I put a deodorant on today? I mean, you say it so eloquently with all, with what because you have a master's in it. But I just say sometimes done is better than perfect. Just start. Put the deodorant on if you're too nervous. And that's my very practical application of it, because even 30 years later, people might think that I don't get that. And I do too. I will sometimes need to psych my own self up to go do something that I've done many times. And so that courage that you had at the beginning of your career, you sometimes need to muster it in different parts of your career still, many, many years later, after much success. And so I think that is, back to Phil, your husband, I think that, he had to muster that courage again to ante up his game in his career. And I'm sure that there were days he's like, well, okie dokie, this is uncomfortable. But I love that the more reps you get, the more confidence builds, the more your brain says it's okay, you're going to survive this, you're going to do well. And so at any rate, you are my dear friend. I'm so happy to see you. Congratulations on all your success. And you're at the right place and helping people that wake up with no paycheck every day. They wake up with a mindset that they can help homeowners achieve the American dream, and that you're there to coach them and love on them and fill their backpack with all goodness so that they can go out and be better humans, so that they can help, the homeowners that they serve with whatever they need. Right. And so I'm really proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It's been so great to be here with you. I'm so thankful for the connection that we've kept over all of these years. And I love what you're doing. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thanks.